In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. Whatever the virtues of the many fields of knowledge, all are steps on the path of omniscience. O Manjushri, may these all arise. May these arise on stages of the path to omniscience. Oh, Manjushri, please accomplish this. I forgot my chant. I was looking for the chant to share it, and I forgot
Clear
it.
mirror of intellect.
There, where's that clear mirror when I need it? Polishing the mirror. Okay, talk about clear mirror of intellect. Who remembers where we made it through last time in the review?
I think we got to page 110.
Yeah.
Oh no, we actually only got to, no, where did we go?
For some reason, my bookmark is at 90.
Well,
Oh,
we've narrowed it for about 20 pages, 90 and 110.
yeah, yeah.
I have 310.
That's today's reading. I thought we entered into the preliminaries
We
somehow. Didn't we
just
talk a little
finished
bit
part,
about?
We
Oh,
finished Removing Doubts.
all we finished is part one.
We finished part one.
In review last week through page 110.
oh.
I have us getting ready to start reviewing part two, Uncommon
Yeah,
Mahamudra. That's where I have my.
that's the same. Yeah.
Mhm.
Common Mahamudra?
Well, uncommon.
Un- Very good. Let's start there, which is page 114, Generating Confidence. How do you all generate confidence? Any tips? Cheerios, juicy fruit, gum. Remember your parents. Remember the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Generating confidence in the Dharma. The greatness of the Dharma, what is practiced, and the greatness of the individual is the practitioner. So on that first page there, 114, those are the particulars that generate confidence in the beginning. And there's a long presentation of how Mahamudra is presented in the sutras and the tantras, specifically the Niruttara tantras, or otherwise known as Anuttara tantras, and how it is the very essence of all sutras and tantras. And then the particulars of Mahamudra, its name and enumerations, essence and divisions, benefits and downfalls of not knowing. So on page 114, Mahamudra, mark, sign, characteristic are synonyms with mudra. Something is called a mudra in the sense that it will be or has been imprinted on something else. On page 114, For example, in the world when a stamp is or has been imprinted, that is called a seal. Similarly, this Dharma is or has been imprinted on all phenomena of samsara and nirvana. Thus it is called muja. Something that cannot be superseded is called a muja. For example, a king's decree that is imprinted with her seal cannot be superseded or overturned by her subjects. Mahamudra, the great seal, all phenomena are sealed with. What are they sealed with? Any ideas in the context of this presentation? When we say phenomena are sealed, all phenomena are sealed with the wax, that you put on a letter when you seal it. What would that wax in the Mahamudra tradition be?
Emptiness.
Emptiness is the common one, yeah. What else, Sue?
Reality?
Are sealed with reality. That's good. Any others? The emptiness of reality. The reality of emptiness. I'm going to go with conateness for 10 points. That all phenomena are, it feels to me more like Sutriyana is emptiness, sealed with emptiness. And Mahamudra is a little bit more.
I was going to say clarity emptiness, which I guess is getting into conate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm there. That's what I would say. Sealed with that. Okay. There's various divisions of Mahamudra on page 117. The essence of Mahamudra is explained as not abiding anywhere, being free from all characteristics, and pervading everything like space. Sounds like nothing. Just as non-abiding space is omnipresent and free from characteristics, so too is the ultimate. Maitripa says, Mahamudra unification transcending intellect is clear yet non-conceptual like space. It's pervasive and vast. Like compassion appears though without nature, like the moon. Great compassion appears though without nature, like the moon and water. Being clarity, it's free from labels, center, or edge. Not veiled by anything. It's unstained beyond hopes or fears, like the dream of a mute. It is inexpressible. In divisions, there's 3: ground, path, and fruition Mahamudra. Generally speaking, ground Mahamudra is the dharmata of all phenomena, naturally luminous emptiness. Bingo. Which is primarily free from elaborations and is the governing principle of samsara and nirvana. Specifically, it is the basic nature, the primordial abiding state of our own mind. Clear, brilliant, unidentifiable. Those 3 qualities. Which is beyond being an object of thought or expression. So that's ground Mahamudra. And then we bring whatever level of understanding of ground Mahamudra we have into the path, into our practice. Path Mahamudra is on the bottom of 117, just in case. Relies on the paths of listening, reflecting, and meditating, the 3 prajnas. It is the realization that all phenomena, which include all that appears and exists, all of samsara, nirvana, and nirvana, are luminous emptiness, primordially without any nature that arises, abides, or ceases. So pretty much similar to ground Mahamudra, which was pretty much the same thing. The basic nature, primordial abiding state of our own mind, and here we say the path is the realization that all phenomena are the same, luminous emptiness, primordially without any nature. Secondly, it's the special meditation on the view that is recognized right within our own experience. So meditating on the view. Anyone remember what the view is? What do we have the view of? The Palisades, the Hudson, snow. Mary Beth, what's the view of?
Is it the the true nature of our mind?
Yeah, it was. He went through it in a certain specific way as the view. Like if we look back, so cultivating the view just briefly. That was in a comment. So it's 79, identifying the view. So that's how to meditate on it. Let's see. Identifying the correct view. Emptiness. And what is the view?
It is that everything is mind.
How about on the bottom of 69? Actually, the page before 67. The way to determine the view in this context.
Absence of self, of persons, and absence of self, of entities.
Right, the twofold selflessness, right? Just what
Okay.
the doctor, just what the doctor recommended. So it is this, back to 118 on the top, it's the special meditation on the view that is recognized right within our own experience. So meditating on the view of the twofold selflessness, right within our own experience, which means what Mary Beth said at first was the nature of our own mind as being beyond those, being the essence of self, of the double selflessness, the twofold. I think we all know the benefits of knowing Mahamudra and how it's presented. We don't really need to review that again. The way the uncommon Mahamudra is taught in 125. The Mahamudra found within the aforementioned explanations of 3 or 4 mudras. So I skipped this long section on how many mudras and what they are, which is sort of complicated and tantric and esoteric. But the Mahamudra found within the aforementioned explanations is taught to be by some to be the uncommon Mahamudra. Among the many such instances, the Mahamudra presented in the Kala Chakra system is the uncommon Mahamudra. It says that emptiness, endowed with the most sublime of manifestations, unchanging bliss, and one taste, are Mahamudra. When the stainless light, which is the most famous commentary on the Kala Chakra Tantra by Vimala Prabhu, by Pundarika, one of the kings of Shambhala, says Mahamudra is unchanging bliss. It is abundantly clear that that unchanging bliss is not a nominal wisdom. The nominal wisdom is a sort of provisional wisdom, a wisdom in words only, and not the ultimate wisdom. That unchanging bliss is not a lower wisdom based on experiences involving the mudras. It is natural connate bliss. So that probably doesn't mean a whole lot specifically to most of us or all of us, but it sort of shifts your mind into like a sort of realm beyond our normal conceptual framework. I think is the main takeaway, at least for me, of this sort of presentation. Is like instead of like trying to come up with some pat answer and like nice little explanation. It just sort of blows that out of the water and expands my mind into the incomprehensible state.
It sounds like it's uncontrived.
beyond contrivance.
Yeah, like it's not something you make up or grasp at. It sort of happens, you know,
Yeah, it's
of its
beyond
own.
our
Yeah.
conceptual fabrications. And he explains that a little bit more, but then he goes on to talk about the ancillary topic, dispelling the wrong views of others. We don't really need to go into that. He's complaining about Sakya Pandita in particular. On page 135, on the bottom, how Mahamudra is the profound point of all sutras and tantras. So you could think of that the other way around. It's like all these sutras and tantras, literally thousands of texts attributed to the Buddha. What is the main point of all of them? All dharmas agree at one point, right? It's one of the slogans. What is that point in the slogans? All dharmas agree at one point. That point is north. What is that point that all dharmas agree at?
I'm probably wrong, but I always think of it as being to be um, working with your sense of self, that you think that there's a self, and you have to work with that so that you stop doing that.
Thank you. Bingo. All dharmas agree at one point that there is no self, selflessness, realizing selflessness is the one point. So that's like the essence of all the teachings. So when we say is the profound point of all sutras and tantras, what's the sort of tantric evolution of that? We actually just went through it, right? Absence of self is sort of emptiness, and then the next step from a tantric point of view is
Absence of self, a phenomena.
of the both of them, and there's like a but. It's like, okay, there's the emptiness side that's emphasized in sutras.
Clarity and bliss.
Clarity and bliss,
Luminosity.
luminosity, yeah,
Good stuff.
the innate, connate quality, the co-emergent quality of emptiness and luminosity is the essence of all the tantras. So experiencing that, it is the nature of our own mind, is empty luminosity, unfindable and constantly knowing. Not knowing in a sophisticated way, but just knowing in the sense of identifying or experiencing whatever it is. If it's confusion, we know we're confused. If it's sleepiness, we know sleepiness. And then the scheme that Gampopa puts forward on page 137 of different types of Mahamudra. There are three types. The path that utilizes inferential cognition involves analyzing phenomena in terms of being a single unit or a plurality. So this is a Madhyamaka analysis that's used to identify the view, to cultivate the view, to understand the selflessness of phenomena. We look at phenomena and see if we can find any phenomena that cannot be divided into parts. And we fail. There's no phenomena that cannot be subdivided.
What page are we at? I'm sorry, Derek.
137.
Oh, we're at 137 now.
Yeah, no problem. I'm skipping around. Sorry. So there's three types of path. One uses inferential cognition. That's the Sutrayana path. Inayana Mahayana. Understanding selflessness of persons and phenomena by understanding that everything is compounded of parts. And there's no ultimate thing that makes things what they are. Determining that they lack any nature, recognizing there is no other destination or conclusion, and then meditating upon that. That there's all these real things around us, but they're all made of parts that are made of parts that are made of parts. And there's no bottom to that situation. There's no fundamental ground holding things up. Then there's the path that utilizes blessings, which purifies the channels, winds, and so forth, relying on the process of generating the deity's form. So this is the tantric path of generation stage practice, deity practice, visualizations. That's based on empowerment from a guru, an authorized Vajra master, here referred to as blessings. And that path purifies the channels and the winds by having both the creation stage practice of visualization and so forth of a deity, and the completion stage practices of the inner yogas, the subtle energy practices. And then thirdly, a path that utilizes direct cognition, and that is intrinsic Mahamudra. And then alternatively, the three paths are the following. So he states it a couple of times, and I think it helps to see actually three times. The path that abandons the bases is that of the Paramitayana. Debbie.
I have a question or comment on the first three that you just went through. I swear I feel from readings we've had in the past, the extra ones you've given us, it seems like the path number one, what you call Madhyamaka, Sutriyana, and path number two, Tantric, they, by evolution or by process, to me, they culminate in path number three.
One of the unique features of path number three is that it builds on paths numbers 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. It's also presented as its own path.
Uh-huh.
And one doesn't have to go through the steps of 1 and 2 to get to it.
Yeah.
And then 1 and 2 are presented as standalone paths by themselves that don't have to culminate in 3.
I don't understand that. To me, that the
The
awareness of
Sutrayana.
the thought path number three. I mean, not as a path, but as a fruition,
Well, here we're talking about paths. And
Okay.
so the Sutrayana path is presented as a complete path to Buddhahood.
Sure.
And then the tantric path of creation and completion stage practice is presented as a complete path.
I get. Okay.
Yeah, so each one
Apples
is
and oranges, I think, to me.
each one is presented as its own complete path. And one of the unique features of the path that we are presented with is that we unify all three of these. Because altogether, it's like taking vitamins separately or all together. Combining your supplements has a lot more power and efficacy. Alternatively, the path that abandons the bases. So what are the bases? Any idea what the bases are? Base, first, second, third, fourth base? The 5 bases of spiritual...
Skandhas?
Sorry?
Skandhas?
Yeah! Skandhas, ayatanas, and dhatus. That's what I figure the bases are. Yeah. The sort of things that we think are real, or make up our world, our so-called real world. Those are abandoned as being empty. Its relinquishment is one where what is relinquished and the remedies are taken to be separate. We use remedies to overcome defilements as if they're actually different things. So that's sort of a dualistic path, right? Secondly, the path that transforms the bases, that the skandhas are wisdom. We don't have to overcome the neurosis of the skandhas, the 5 neuroses, the 5 kleshas. We can transform them into wisdom. The transformation of the support is to generate the body of the deity. So all the different aspects of the bases are transformed into aspects of the deity in deity practice. If you've ever done deity practice, you first have emptiness, and then from that, you build up the whole of reality from the elements. You go through all the elements, you place them together as a mandala, and then upon that is the lotus and sun disk seed, and then the seed cell, and boom, you have your deity. The transformation, Tantra as transforming neurosis into wisdom. The first one is overcoming neurosis with wisdom as if they're separate. The second one is transforming neurosis into wisdom, like it's one thing that changes. And then the third one is the path that recognizes the bases is that of Mahamudra. So instead of having to transform the bases from neurosis to wisdom, is recognizing that the bases are primordially empty luminosity from the start. We don't have to do anything to them. Has nothing to abandon, no remedy, nothing to transform, and no transformer. All is the magical display of mind. Awakening occurs by recognizing that the primordially unborn nature, the Dharmakaya, is present innately within mind itself, and becoming familiar with seeing that. So it's helpful to understand this scheme for understanding what Mahamudra is, because Mahamudra is very much the third of these different options. Right? Recognizing our own screwed up mind as being Buddha, without having to change it and transform it, Or the 3 paths are as follows. The paramita path is for those of lesser abilities and engage the path of accumulation of merit and wisdom. Secret mantras for those of intermediate abilities who have concepts and mental afflictions. Sounds like everybody. And who engage the path of method. The path of method is creation and completion stage practices. Mahamudra is for those of sharpest abilities who have prajna and engage suchness. So it's sort of bold of us to engage in Mahamudra practice. We're asserting that we have the sharpest abilities, that we have prajna, and we engage in suchness. So remember that throughout your day, that we're trying to engage suchness. How do you engage suchness? It's a good question to think about. Anyway, this on the bottom of the page, this path includes the profound points of Sutra and Tantra. We don't need to go through that. And then the lineages in 143, the greatness of the lineages. And he goes through, all the lineage figures of the Mahamudra lineage. And then chapter 6 is the preliminaries. We have the path of the general teachings, which would be like the Hinayana and Mahayana. And then on 151, the description of the preliminaries for this system's path. And he says there's 2 types of individuals, those who are like chokus, who just develop very quickly, and then the rest of us. Mostly there's the rest of us. Then on 153, the preliminaries in this context, the uncommon preliminaries, impermanence, to overcome laziness. taking refuge and arousing bodhicitta to dispel obstacles, offering up mandalas to amass accumulations of merit and wisdom, the meditation and recitation of Vajrasattva to cleanse obscurations. And then finally, the meditation of Guru Yoga to receive blessings. So this is basically what is known today as Nundro practice, the preliminary practices in Vajrayana, Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhism. Interesting that the order is not the way it's done today, right? Mandala comes first and Vajrasattva, before Vajrasattva, interestingly, in his scheme. It may be that in his day, that was the order that they did them, and then somebody changed them later. I don't know. But, the four Nundro practices are basically an elaboration of the Mahayana sevenfold offering, right? Anybody know what the Mahayana sevenfold offering is?
Things like offering,
No,
rejoicing. What?
starts with something else.
I don't have them all in order. I'm just throwing out a few that I remember.
Gotcha. Yeah, it
All
does
right.
have offering. And what was the other one you said?
Requesting to remain.
Requesting to remain. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all mixed up in my head right now. I'm sorry, I can't do them in the right
Okay.
order.
Prostrating,
Right.
offering, confessing, requesting to teach, requesting, prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting to teach, requesting to remain, and dedication of merit. And these are an extrapolation of what Buddhists, in particular lay Buddhists, would do when they came to worship at a stupa or other sacred site. They would prostrate, they would make offerings to it, they would confess their negative activities, they would rejoice in the activities of the enlightened ones, they would ask their teachers to remain here and not pass into nirvana, they would ask them to turn the wheel of Dharma. I'd flip those two. They would ask them to teach, they would ask them not to disappear, and then they would dedicate the merit. And so you see in that order, offering comes before confession. But anyway, not a big deal. So,
You're saying that Nundro is that, and
Nundro is an expanded
so let
version.
me just it's Nundro. It's the Mahayana
Fold offering.
seven. Is that the seven branch?
Yes, seven branch
Seven
offering.
branch. So the seven branch and what to do at a stupa. They're all
Yeah, same sort of thing.
okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, developed over time. And Rinpoche goes through the sevenfold in the Profound Treasury, Volume 2, Chompa Rinpoche. And it's an extremely common scheme that you'll find within Vajrayana practice. So he goes through those preliminaries. And so this scheme sets us up for genuinely experiencing our nature as the nature of our mind as Dharmakaya, right? It sort of puts you in the mood, puts you in the right frame of mind for transcending the news and all the other little things that we're obsessed with. Who didn't wash the dishes and the bills and so forth. And let's see, it then leads into what is to be done prior to the meditation process themselves. Processes, on the bottom of 168. way to maintain the particulars of what is to be known first. We should train in the 5 qualities conducive to liberation taught in Vasubandhu's Abhidharma Kosha. Sangha's Compendium of Abhidharma Samuchaya. Ethical conduct, restraining the sense faculties, moderation of food, turning off your cell phone, etc. The way to maintain sessions on 172. Preparatory practices have representations of the awakened body, speech, of mind. So that, by the way, is the essence of a shrine. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, a shrine has to have representations of the 3 aspects of enlightened being, body, speech, and mind. And when you look at a shrine, what's the representation of the speech, enlightened speech, of an enlightened one?
Buddhist text.
A Buddhist text, yeah, we just put it, a Buddhist text. That can be anything from what is Alan Watts's famous book? Any Buddhist text. Or you can buy a copy of the Sadhana Mahamudra in Tibetan from the translation committee and put that on your shrine. What's a representation of the Buddha's? That was speech. How about body?
Rupa or
Arupa.
Tanka.
Arupa. So rupa is a Sanskrit word, means form, and it's a word that's used to name a what?
A statue of the Buddha.
Statue in English. In English, a statue of the Buddha's body, or what was the other one?
Tanka, perhaps.
A tanka, which is a Tibetan stylized, what we would call painting, depiction, graphic depiction. So that's the body of the Buddha, is on the shrine. And then what's the mind of the Buddha?
Could be a crystal, right? Crystal ball.
Could be a crystal ball, yeah, which is what Trungpa Rinpoche had us use on the shrine, as a crystal ball, as the Buddha's mind. What is an alternative? That you often see on Buddhist shrines, Tibetan Buddhist shrines.
Flame?
Those are offerings to the 3 jewels. Flame and incense and water are offerings. Let's see if we Google Tibetan Buddhist shrine images. It's not coming up. Stupa. Anyway, stupa. Stupa is often used as the image of the Buddha's mind. Isn't that cool? Stupas come in different shapes and forms, but yeah, Debbie's got one. Thank you. That's cool. Yeah, so that on your shrine represents the Buddha's mind. So body, speech, and mind, and the rest is offerings. Anyway, so he's suggesting that we have sessions. He says 2 or 3. He doesn't work for a living, by the way.
Where are you?
I'm on page 172, section B, the way to maintain sessions. Preparatory practices. If you have the 3 representations of awakened body, speech, mind, arrange them on a shrine and place whatever offerings you may have before them, such as flames and incense and so forth. Sit on a comfortable seat. We would say, sit on a very hard cushion that props you up properly. Let your body and mind settle naturally. Cut off the flow of extraneous, wishful thinking. Simpler said than done. If you don't cut off the flow of such thoughts at this point, the reverberations of that will definitely show up as problems when you try to maintain the main spiritual practices. How did he know that? Next, you must have bodhicitta to begin your spiritual practice. It ensures that whatever you do as the main practice will be cause for awakening, will be a cause. So that's why I've introduced that little chant at the beginning of class. In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. It's rousing bodhicitta by taking refuge. So it combines the both by Nippon in a wonderful way. Main practices: keep clearly in your mind the number of objects of meditation to be cultivated in their sequence. If you do like shamatha and tonglen and guru yoga, or just like figure out your scheme and go for it. Or if you just sit. We often add chanting, which he doesn't list here. He says, keep clearly in your mind the number of objects of meditation that are to be cultivated in their sequence, whether they are objects of meditation discussed already, such as contemplating impermanence, or objects of meditation involving characteristics or the lack of characteristics, which have yet to be explained in the Mahamudra Shamatha section. Arouse a strong resolve, thinking, I will not let my mind stray into jumbling up the various meditation objects, taking one thing from the beginning and another from the end. That's usually the least of our worries. Then with mindfulness and alertness, the two main qualities of meditation, practice correctly according to the number and sequence of the objects of meditation. Interesting the way he talks about the objects of meditation. That's like having various objects. Let's see, if you don't do that, and instead practice with some meditation objects, not others, of a sequence, with some mindfulness, some distraction, said you will fall into the bad habit of doing that, will have problems in your spiritual practice throughout your life. Therefore, from the outset, it is essential to guide your mind in a straightforward and sequential manner. Keep everything in order. Keep it simple is an easier response to this. Just sit and place your mind in meditative equipoise. As a beginner, if you try to sustain your concentration on an object and meditate for a long time, right from the start, your mind will come under the sway of dullness and agitation. If you fall into that bad habit, it will be hard to correct later on. Thus, as a beginner, you should meditate for short sessions frequently, right? Like Cynthia.
I know you have lots of theories on the methods that were taught to us. So I'm wondering, since obviously we were not given that short sessions type of instruction, we were given sit a lot, do long sessions. Do you think that he was in some ways deliberately aiming for us to encounter dullness and agitation and have to deal with them?
I do. I think more that he was intentionally wanting us to process our mental baggage.
Right. It's just funny how the way this says this, it sort of, kind of goes, oh, well, maybe he was deliberately aiming for, first the dullness and agitation and then probably all the rest.
I think he very much wanted us to experience our discursive mind and our emotional mind and our fixated mind vividly. Yeah, and I think having a gap on the in-breath is a big part of that. Provokes material from coming up as opposed to covering it over with a continuous meditation object. But then this is a very different sort of phase of meditation. Ideally one has gone through years of swimming through the soup of your mental baggage. And then finally we get to this point where we're studying Mahamudra and we have a little bit of understanding of how to deal with that mental baggage and not to be engulfed by it. And so then at that point, shorter sessions for when we're specifically doing Mahamudra practice are effective, or as effective. And as
Yeah, because I'm thinking that different times of the day, your different. You know, you're experiencing different things. Your body's temperature is different. You might be more shaky, you know, and that what could affect the meditation in interesting ways, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, find out what's the most supportive time of day to practice, and try to practice then. But if you miss it, then practice whenever you can. Concluding, dedicate the merit between sessions. Be conscientious, cultivate conscientiousness, heedfulness. Mahamudra approaches. This is the funniest chapter of the whole book, which is 2 1/4 pages, or 1/3 pages. Other chapters are hundreds of pages. So there's not a lot here to review. Let's go on to Shamatha. So Mahamudra Shamatha. So this is 4 parts: the process of instruction, the process of pointing out instructions in spiritual practice, the way to sustain, and the way realization develops. So what the translator has done is has merged the outline of the text into the Western proclivity for chapter divisions. When we do chapters generally have the same hierarchical value, if you know what I mean. For Tibetans, material has an ascending or a descending hierarchical value, if that means anything. But basically, these 4 sections are sum up the remainder of the book. The first one, the process of instruction, is Mahamudra Shamatha and Vipassana, which is chapters 8 and 9. The process of pointing out is chapter 10. The way to sustain is chapters 11, 12, 13, or something like that. And then the way realization develops is the 4 yogas, which is the remainder, like 13, 14 chapters. So within these 4, we're going to focus first. Here we have the process of instruction, which has Shamatha and Vipassana. And here we have the instruction on Shamatha, the preparations, the physical pose, the way to focus the mind, actual objects, the way to sustain mental stillness, and the process of achieving it, and the purpose. Bless you. Bless you. A lot of sneezing going on out there. Don't catch a cold this cold season, right? Preparations. We pretty much went through those. Restrain your sense faculties. Alert behavior. I'm on 180. Moderation of food, and so forth. The physical posture. The 7-point posture. We've heard that before. His version is sit in the Vajra position. So the legs crossed. He's suggesting Vajra posture because they're able to do that easily. For us, it's just cross your legs, however. 2, hold your hands in a mudra of equipoise. We generally place our hands on our thighs. Either way is fine. 3, straighten your spine and keep your entire body taut. Interesting way of stating it. So your spine, has natural curves in it. You're not going to succeed in going against those, but you can straighten up to the extent possible. Keep your body taut, we might say erect. Keep your upper arms and elbows straight, not bent, and your shoulders raised. That's an interesting one. So your upper arms and elbows straight. So the arms are straight from the shoulders to the elbows, not bent, and your shoulders are raised. We always say bring them back and down, and he's saying raised. It's an interesting difference. Bend your neck slightly so that your chin presses lightly downwards, lightly towards your Adam's apple. I doubt that they called it the Adam's apple in Tibet, but rest the tip of your tongue on your palate, leaving a little bit of space between your upper and lower teeth, and barely close your lips. Your eyes should be in a peaceful gaze, looking into the space beyond the tip of your nose, neither moving nor closed. The space beyond the tip of your nose. There's a lot of space beyond the tip of your nose, technically speaking. I think he's sort of implying the space just beyond the tip of your nose, as we've talked about. And the peaceful gaze is generally a downward slanting gaze. They say the peaceful gaze of the Shravakas. And let's see. He gives some more variations from other texts on these points of posture. The way to focus the mind on an object. Engage with enthusiasm. That sort of sums it up on page 183. That enthusiasm comes from seeing the excellent qualities of samadhi. That really sums it up, I think, quite nicely. On 184, the actual objects for practicing mental stillness or shamatha has two parts: the objects of meditation involving characteristics, and then shamatha without characteristics. He doesn't use the word shamatha for the first one, but it's implied, bless you, given the use of the term in the second one. Those involving characteristics have characteristics with supports and without supports. So a scheme of progressively going from with support, with concrete support, so to speak, to no structure at all. The actual objects of meditation, let's see, focusing on the form of the Tathagata is a very common one in the Mahayana tradition. And on 185, on the second full paragraph, says, some say that since other texts do not teach pursuing stillness through relying on pebbles, twigs, and bindus, interesting collection of objects, this kind of presentation simply demonstrates ignorance of the objects for cultivating mental stillness. And what he means by this kind of presentation of progressively going from pebbles to twigs and bindus is a good way, and that those who don't like it are ignorant, because this progressive manner allows those of lesser intelligence to develop mental stillness easily. Anyway, we skip that and we just go right to the breath, right? We start with the breath and the posture.
Derek,
Yes, sir.
is it just me, or is the phrase pursuing stillness kind of ironic?
It is, and that's a good point. I wonder if the author, if the Tibetan has that same sense of like, later he's going to say that stillness comes about from not pursuing anything. And but the path is overall has that sort of contradictory quality to it. It's like you have to try to not try, basically. You have to strive very hard to get to the point where you don't strive. But if you don't strive very hard, you never can get to the point of being beyond striving. So, thank you for that. Nice. That's a foreshadowing.
I wanted to ask a question about these focusing on a pebble or a twig. And I've never seen that in our tradition offered as a way. But if you have someone who really just cannot, concentrate at all, have you ever offered that, or
Yeah.
something like that, you know, like
Yeah, there's a large group of individuals that are like that. Anyone have any ideas who those might be?
Um,
Yeah, I came up with, they mentioned
Oh,
that a lot at Juan Dharma.
Juan Dharma, yeah, Don Juan Dharma, yeah. Juan Dharma Center. We were there. They did that,
Yeah.
huh? That's cool.
um,
Rob,
the Nalanda Bodhi practice path has a few weeks of doing that.
neat. In the cultivation of Mahamudra Shamta, they start
Just in the
pulling.
cultivation of shamatha. It's
Uh-huh.
at the very beginning of shamatha. When we're just practicing shamatha, we do um, pebbles and sticks and things.
It's great that he has people do the traditional skiing. That's so cool. But there's a whole class of a large group of individuals who this is a very helpful approach for. Any ideas? Mary Beth?
I'm going to guess that it's people who practice Zen.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Maybe.
They seem to have a lot of
Uh,
like objects that are, the rake of the garden and the
mm,
not a twig, but like the wall right in front of them. So just
yeah,
seems
yeah. Gravel.
that's not what you were thinking of.
Gravel.
there's the
No.
story about the Buddha giving the guy the
Yeah.
boom.
The rake, yeah.
The sweeper, I always liked the one about the sweeper who was instructed to concentrate on just his sweeping.
Yeah, that's what Sue was saying. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking about those creatures that Mary Beth spends a lot of time with. Children.
I thought that
Damn.
might have been what you were thinking of.
If you have children, if you actually want children to try to meditate, you got to give them like an object. You're not going to tell them, okay, focus on just the out breath, just the out breath, and then extend that to the space in the room. Good luck with that. So children, yeah, you do, and particularly natural objects, very good with children, right? And short sessions, they're into short sessions, definitely.
Also, edible objects are used with children.
Effectively, for as long as they last.
Right. The raisin, the tangerine, whatever.
The M&M.
Have you ever tried meditating on a cookie without eating it?
That's painful. That's sick. Yeah.
It's a very short session.
Right. The identification of mental stillness, give up physical activities, be at ease, don't talk a lot, don't think. Behold the phenomena of the breakthrough. This is Talopa. What a guy. Let's see, 189. The objects of meditation involving characteristics without support. So still in the world of characteristics, but that are without support, meaning without like gross, concrete support. Those that use the breath and those that don't. So there's the breath. Counting the breath. Concentrated on filling with the breath. Two ways of using the breath. Filling the breath is holding the breath in the vase body, which is slightly esoteric practice. Those that don't use the breath. This is a very interesting one. So on 193, whatever stillness has been achieved through those ancillary practices for concentrating the mind. What does the word ancillary mean in this context? Or imply?
Sounds like they mean preliminary, but that's not actually what ancillary means. I don't think.
What is...
Support
It,
practice.
Well, right above that paragraph, it says ancillary practices
oh,
are said to be esoteric. So that would, I think maybe he's talking about things like the vase breathing and stuff like is being not part of the core path or
Yeah, they're
ancillary.
ancillary. They lead up. In other words, he's saying this practice of characteristics without support that don't use the breath is the main section of the path, and that everything else was ancillary up to this point, the pebbles and so forth, and the breath. So this is the heart of the practice. So our practice of shamatha using the out-breath is supposed to gradually dissolve into this, which is whatever stillness has been achieved through those is refined by using the following practices that do not involve a support or a reference point. Adopt the essential points for the bodies before. Do not do any practice that involves focusing or concentrating the mind on anything, such as on an external focal support or the internal comings and goings of the breath. Your mind should have no support at all and not be disturbed by any concepts about attention. Leave your mind in its own state. Do not think about the past, what you've done before, things that have happened. Do not speculate about the future, what you may do, how you may do it. Do not engage in analysis of the present, what is around you now, or what appears to be the case. Leave your mind to be free, loose, and unconstrained. So this is the essence of shamatha. This is what our shamatha on the breath is aimed towards is meant to lead to, as the use of the breath lessens as we practice over and over again. We gradually learn how to be present without the reliance of the breath as a support. And then shamatha without characteristics focuses on just what are the aspects, what are the characteristics of flawless shamatha, regardless of the object of the support. And there's the following points of tightening and relaxing. It's the main teaching under how to pursue flawless samadhi. Not too tight, not too loose. Sort of sums it up very, very nicely. And it gives a lot of techniques for tightening up if you're drowsy, or too loose, and relaxing if you're too tight and tense. And then 2001, identifying as flawless shamatha samadhi. What are the basis of the ways to pursue mental stillness that were explained in stages above flawless shamatha samadhi? Interesting term, shamatha samadhi. There's shamatha samadhi, there's vipassana samadhi, there's shamatha vipassana samadhi. Here we're cultivating shamatha samadhi. Finally arises that samadhi must definitely combine both the quality of stillness, resting quietly and one pointedly, no conceptuality, and the sharp clarity in which mindfulness and alertness are unimpaired and are accompanied by certainty. What is it we're certain about? What is this certainty? Is there something wrong with my microphone? I don't hear anything. What is it, the certainty? Certainty of what?
Certainty of the view.
Thank you. Certainty of the view. And what was the view?
We just went over that. Luminous emptiness.
Right. Thank you very much. Certainty that our minds are luminous emptiness. So, and the sharp clarity in which mindfulness, alertness are unimpaired and are accompanied by certainty. So we still have that understanding of the view, really like imprinted in our mind. Mind not resting one pointedly on its object and getting involved in various kinds of thoughts, or mind not involved in thinking but being a stagnant state of impaired mindfulness, or the mind that hasn't lost all mindfulness but nevertheless rests lethargically without any sharp clarity, are all considered to be false in shamatha. In samadhi. And we'll go through those in this course, this segment. The strains, the so-called strains. The absence of sharp clarity, mindfulness, alertness is the flaw of dullness. The mind not resting one point, at least the flaw of agitation. Therefore the ways to dispel the flaws of dullness and agitation are crucial. They have been explained, i.e. before. The asterisk says, see the section called The Ways to Prevent Dullness and Agitation, pages 28 to 29, and will again be discussed. So just to summarize here, when you have dullness, arouse mindfulness, alertness in the mind's sharp clarity, and intensify those. When you sense agitation as needed, relax your ambition to tighten your mind on the focus. When through balancing, tightening, and relaxing samadhi arises according to your wishes, do not apply any critical investigation. Maintain and prolong that natural state, simply not letting its continuity vanish. When you're there, don't tinker with it. Skipping the quote of the two, mindfulness and alertness. Mindfulness keeps the mind from wandering away from its object of meditation, which in this case, there is no object of meditation. So the object is the nature of empty luminosity that is what we call our mind. And alertness detects whether it has become distracted or not, whether it is dull or agitated, the it being your mind. Intensify your resolve, thinking, I will not be distracted from the object of meditation even for an instant. Prolong that stream of mindfulness and make your commitment to being mindful without forgetfulness be heartfelt. Within that state, alertness, which recognizes distraction or its absence, and the faults of dullness and agitation, should simply be a lookout, watching fixedly, without engaging in a lot of extra critical investigation. No commentary, please. Just the facts. Am I on the object or not? Am I dull or not? In the sutra context, there are many explanations that differentiate between mindfulness and alertness, but the esoteric instructions of the practice lineage often reduce those to just mindfulness awareness combined, or even, for short, just mindfulness. We may wonder, how can this be? There is no mistake. And then the quote from Shantideva, when mindfulness sits at the mind's door for the sake of guarding, alertness will appear. Since they're distinguished in terms of being broad and specific, base and refined, alertness is contained within clear, strong mindfulness. So one is within the other. Those who abide in mindfulness possess alertness. Oh, this is good. So at this point, the intelligent ones, which are all of you, may wonder, what should we do? When concentrating one pointedly on an object of meditation with mindfulness and alertness, if you give rise to subtle thinking that discerns whether you're resting on the object or not, and whether dullness or agitation have arisen or not, there will not be a non-conceptual state. But without such subtle thinking, there will be no alertness that recognizes dullness, agitation, and so forth. The uneducated regard that subtle thinking as a flaw, and yet, even though they lack the sharp clarity of alertness, they seem to sustain a resting state that has some degree of mental lucidity. However, that kind of subtle thinking is not thought in the usual sense. What kind of thinking? The subtle thinking that discerns whether you're resting on the object or not, and whether dullness or agitation have arisen or not. Those two things, whether I'm on the object or not, whether dullness or agitation arises. Those two things are okay to think about. Everything else is not allowed. However, that kind of subtle thinking is not thought in the usual sense. It is alertness or awareness, which are, the use of the plural is a little weird. Alertness or awareness, which the two of them are congruent with vipassana, and therefore must be generated. So that's a really important point here, is that the alertness in particular is the bridge for developing the vipassana practice. And that there's a subtle alertness, a subtle commentary that goes on in your mind when you're meditating. That instead of commenting on like what's happening and what's for lunch and those sort of things, It's commenting on whether you're practicing or not. It's commenting on the quality of your practice in a very subtle, unelaborate way. From Kamala Shila's Stages of Middle Meditation, Part 2. Having placed your mind on the object of your choice, you should repeatedly and continuously rest your mind there. And that's not like a incidental phrase. Repeatedly and continuously is very specifically stated. We repeatedly place our mind there, and then ideally that becomes a continuous resting there. While doing that, analyze your mind, examine it. This is not a vipassana. What makes it vipassana is analyzing the nature of your mind. What makes it alertness is analyzing whether that mind is dull or agitated, or is distracted or mindful. Is it properly focused on the object of meditation? Has it become dull, or has it become distracted by getting involved with external objects? No, yes, and yes. Okay, so skipping a paragraph, it says to sum up, samadhi refers to a mental state possessed of continuous mindfulness, recollecting its object. A mental state without the flaws of dullness and agitation, and a mental state that possesses the joy of settling naturally. In this context, the object of meditation is non-conceptuality and clarity awareness, and the mindfulness and alertness of those are continuous. So, shamatha without characteristics has the object of non-conceptuality and clarity awareness, the three fundamental qualities of the true nature of mind: non-conceptuality, clarity, and awareness. So, in other words, mind, shamatha on the nature of the mind, is that third type of shamatha without characteristics. The way to sustain these with mental stillness with these approaches is to do them a lot, and to be critical of your practice. Think about your practice. Generate faith, motivation, and so forth. Arouse vigorous mindfulness. I'm on 205. And then he gives an explanation of mindfulness. So let's see. The lead-in paragraph. In a similar way, those with predominantly dull minds need to dispel coarse and subtle dullness. Then you must guard against agitation and cultivate samadhi. When flawless samadhi arises, if you have too much mental application or exertion, those may become major hindrances to settling naturally within samadhi. Rest in the equanimity of simply not deviating from samadhi. Then he goes to mindfulness, what mindfulness is. It's pretty much what we just went through. Ending up that paragraph on the top of page 206 with, in brief, the moments of mindfulness should follow one after another, as if you were adding more mindfulness on top of mindfulness. And they say that because we're being mindful of being mindful, because there's no other object. So it's just being mindful of being mindful of being mindful of being mindful of being mindful, etc. Don't let the energy of previous moments of mindfulness weaken or lapse, but add some more. Have another dollop of mindfulness. Alertness arises from within vigorous mindfulness. Acts as a lookout, the sense of watching fixedly to see whether the faults of dullness or agitation have arisen. It's not suitable for alertness in this context to involve examination, analysis, investigation, and the like, which are extensions of that mere watching, because they will hinder the one-pointed mind at this point. Those are later for vipassana, when we've established the stillness of mind. Exertion or application of dullness or agitation occur, you should actively apply yourself to the methods that dispel those. And in case you're not familiar with what are called the 6 powers, we've heard of like the 5 or 6 obstacles, and then the 8 antidotes to shamatha. We've heard of the 9 stages. There's also a scheme called the 6 powers. And powers 3 through 6 are mindfulness, alertness, exertion, and equanimity. So he's going through those. Powers 1 and 2 are learning and understanding. So the first thing that we do in meditation is we learn the technique. We learn what we're supposed to do. We read the books like this, and we learn what is it we're doing. And for many of us, we've been doing it for many years before we actually begin to learn what it is we're doing. And then we understand. We begin to understand why we're doing what we're doing, how it works, what it's doing. And then we can genuinely apply mindfulness and alertness and exertion. Exertion is the application of mindfulness and alertness. On exertion, it says if dullness or agitation occur, you actively apply yourself to the methods that dispel those, which are mindfulness and alertness. However, once they have been dispelled, further applications are not suitable, because arousing mental applications and keeping the mind unmoving are mutually exclusive, which is Rob's point earlier. Thank you. So then equanimity, when you have pacified those flaws and have balanced, tightening, and relaxing, your mind settles naturally. And that's the end of the story. You skillfully nurture samadhi. The process of achieving mental stillness on 207. This is the section where it goes through the stages. So first on 208 we have the 9 stages. On the bottom we have the 6 strengths, which I just went through calling them powers. And then on 209 we have 209 we have the 4 types of attention. And these all map out the stages of our success in this practice. He blends them together, shows how they interweave. And let's see, pretty much repeating that sort of thing for the remainder of this section. Then on page 212, the purpose of practicing mental stillness. I think we know that. It's to relinquish the mental afflictions so that we can then practice vipassana, which uproots the mental afflictions. So we stop giving energy to the mental afflictions through shamatha. And that concludes the shamatha practice section. So briefly, let's just touch on vipassana and pointing out sections. Since some of us were not in those sections, and those of us that were, we had 2 classes on review, so we don't really need to review those much. It should be fresh. The instructions in Vipassana has 6 parts: the reason it's necessary, the preparations necessary, the classifications of the ways to cultivate Vipassana, the way we do it in this context, the difference between Vipassana developing or not, and then correlating this Vipassana with other approaches, meaning how does the Mahamudra Vipassana compare to Sutriyana and so forth. I think we know why Vipassana is necessary to uproot the kleshas and ignorance, and to realize the twofold selflessness. The preparations are similar to the preparations for shamatha, to reduce distraction. The classifications, there's different schemes of Vipassana. There's analytical Vipassana, non-analytical Vipassana are the 2 main schemes that are relevant for us. On 220, the way to cultivate Vipassana. In this context, determining the essence of mind and its various appearances. So the objective of Vipassana is to understand, experience, and recognize or realize the essence of mind. And that scheme, those three terms I just used as a deliberate use of those because they indicate a progressive order of development. The understanding, the experience, and the realization of the nature of mind. We understand it intellectually, we begin to have little glimpses of it experientially, and then we come to a full-blown realization of the nature of mind, which really means like a sort of letting go of what is not the nature of mind and the unification of our attention with the nature of our mind. To determine the essence of our mind and its various appearances. First, why are our objectives, and our objectives are enlightenment, why are they achieved by observing just the mind? Because the mind is the root of everything. So what is the essence of mind? What is the root?
Where are you?
I'm on 220. I'm going through the outline on the top of the page, 220.
Okay.
Determining the essence of mind, the root is, let's see. Let's skip to that section. So first is the detail on why observing just the mind, which I summed up. And then determine the essence of mind, the root is 224. Where it's taught, the actual stages, the citation, and the way. Let's skip where it's taught, the actual stages. On 226b, the actual stages of this meditation. Earlier, during the cultivation of shamatha samadhi, the emphasis was on resting meditation that relies mainly on non-conceptual samadhi. In this context, to cultivate vipassana, the emphasis is on analytical meditation that examines and analyzes your own mind with discerning prajna. To do this arouse sharp mental clarity within a shamatha state that is simply mind not being distracted from its object of meditation. At this point, determining the essence of mind itself is similar to determining the lack of a self of persons in the sutra context. That pretty much sums it up. That really does sum it up. So on 228, the final quote before the next section. Once you've stabilized your mind in an object of meditation with a shamatha, if you examine with prajna, the light of true wisdom will manifest. And actually, let's back up towards the top of the page. The last sentence of the first, the overlapping paragraph. At that time, while not identifying mind as being this, rely continuously on mindful awareness that does not stray from being reflexively aware and reflexively clear. Maintain that without a moment's distraction. Sorry, that was the second to last sentence. So that sums up the Vipassana practice. Then we have lots of citations, and then the way to determine the essence of mind at 233. It's taught that once we have investigated properly using the techniques for searching the mind, as explained above, finally we will see that mind is not something material, that is without abode and support, is beyond identity and manifestation, and is not veiled by conceptual elaborations. An analogy for it is space. There are numerous citations for this, which he lists at length. So let's skip all of those And go to 237, determine the essence of thoughts and appearances, mind's expressive power. And the most important part of that, of this section is the title. The title says, determine the essence of thoughts and appearances, which are mind's expressive power. So there's the root of mind, the essence of mind, and then mind's expressive power, which is seen as thoughts and appearances. Appearances is a term that is meant to indicate the reflections of sense experiences. So there's thoughts, which is mental activity that sort of originates in the mind sense space itself. And then there's appearances, which are mental experiences that originate from the other five senses. To simplify. On 238, appearances are shown to be mind. Those of us who do not understand the suchness of mind mistake thoughts and appearances, such as forms and sounds, such as all of the things that we consider to be real external to ourselves, like the rest of the world, which manifest as the expressive power of mind to exist objectively as things other than mind. And yet ultimately they are only our own mind. It's a hard one, but something not to be dismissed as like, oh, I'm not there yet. I'm not ready for that one. But just something to be thought about, like, what does that actually mean? They're not saying that the external world doesn't exist. It's not there. They're not saying it's your projection alone and that you all exist within my mind. So what is it they're saying? It's important to think about that. On 240, the way appearances are realized once mind is realized. Sarha explains that the root of all existence and peace is mind itself. It's the seed of everything. It radiates existence and nirvana, samsara nirvana. He explains that everything that radiates or arises from the mind is the nature of the mind. So thoughts and appearances are not separate from the mind, is the conclusion of this section. On page 242, the explanation of the objects for the stages of this meditation, which is called Vipassana, Mahamudra Vipassana. At this point, the determination of the nature of thoughts and appearances is similar to the determination of the lack of self-entity of phenomena found in the sutra context, right? So there's two selflessnesses. There's selflessness of person, and we just went through that as realizing the base or root of mind is similar to the selflessness of mind, and then realizing the nature of thoughts and appearances is equivalent to determining the lack of selflessness of phenomena in the sutra context. First, determine thoughts, and he gives a number of ways of looking at thoughts, which are really cool. If you haven't read this, go ahead, check it out. Next, determining appearances on 243, same thing. And let's see. This section has these amazing explanations of partial understanding, partial experience that are really fascinating. So like in the bottom of 244, the very last paragraph. Similarly, it is the case that by looking at mind right with its movements and appearances, a few beginners are able to do what is called collapse that and arrive at clarity, emptiness. Wow, wouldn't that be nice? Others, however, simply draw thoughts and appearances into a state of meditative equipoise through mindfulness. That is not integrating thoughts and appearances into the path through having determined their nature. These are distinctions we must understand. So both of those are ways of practicing shamatha, not vipassana. Something to think about. 245, misinterpretations about a root or basis, concluding that thoughts and appearances are mind itself. So this is, it says like eliminating misinterpretation. Really, this is like the conclusion. The first part is concluding thoughts and appearances are mind itself, and the title says it all. And the next section on 247 is cutting through the roots of stillness and movement within mind itself. As before, rest your mind clearly in clarity, and in that state look with your discerning prajna directly at that non-conceptual quiet stillness. Examine its origin, abiding, and departure, as you did previously. We've all heard that exercise. Look for the origination, abiding, and departure of thoughts. Next, cause a thought to arise suddenly and examine it as before, and so forth. Similar exercises that continue on 248 and 249, 250. The conclusion, the final conclusion is that everything is unborn. There's no birthdays. Nobody has a birthday. So everybody's unborn. Sorry. No more birthday cakes, no more candles, no more presents. 253, the difference between Vipassana developing or not. In all contexts of cultivating Vipassana, we analyze with discerning prajna. This is an important thing that he repeats over and over again. And so you might wonder, like in Trungpa Rinpoche's system, do we analyze with discerning prajna in Vipassana? I say yes. Many people say no. Many people say panoramic awareness is a non-analytical samadhi. I say that that's shamatha. And that when Rinpoche talks about within that panoramic awareness, realizing the absence of radiator and radiation, the reference point, that's analyzing with discerning prajna. He doesn't emphasize that. He emphasizes the panoramic awareness, the stillness, in my opinion, because he's leading beginning practitioners into the second stage of shamatha, which is alertness. Shamatha and the cultivation of shamatha without object. In order for them to cultivate the alertness that is the bridge for developing Vipassana. Let's see. Then 255, correlating this Vipassana with other approaches. So he compares it, what he just presented, which is the focus on the nature of mind itself, with presentations of Vipassana in the Sutrayana tradition, citing the traditional sources of the Samdhina or Mochen, or Unraveling the Intent Sutra, the Shravaka Bhumi. And there's there's three schemes for Vipassana that he went through in the common Vipassana tradition, the three characteristics, the four types or levels of Vipassana, and the six characteristics or discoveries. And that concludes this section. So next time, once again, we did a whole class overview. I hope that's okay with people and it's not extraneous and bothersome. But next time we'll go through the pointing out instruction briefly, and then we'll dive into the subject matter for this segment, the sustaining. Sue, comments, questions, suggestions?
When I was reviewing notes from when we first went over this chapter of the Uncommon Mahamudra, I had a note of something you said that, because it was about generating confidence, and you said that Chogyam Trungpa that one of the terma was about confidence. And I was wondering what the name of that terma is.
Oh, that's the letter of the Black Ashe.
And that is about confidence.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the practice of raising wind horse is developing confidence. And he explains it in his amazing book called The Shambhala, the Sacred Path of the Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
and also in the Golden Sun of the Great, no, what is it? Great Eastern Sun,
Great Eastern Sun.
and Smile at Fear. Those are the three Shambhala books
Mm-hmm.
so far. Hopefully there'll be another one someday.
Really?
Well, he gave the Great Eastern Sun is he used to do level 5 of Shambhala. Shambhala has 5 levels, and the undergraduate he used to do level 5, and those are in that book. And he also did there was the graduate program then developed, and he did parts of the graduate program, and those have not yet been released.
Wow.
So, some of them are in Great Eastern Sun, but others there's a bunch that aren't. So maybe someday.
Well, Great Eastern Sun is a pretty good book.
Great Eastern Sun is amazing, but yeah. It's Mahamudra. It's all Mahamudra. I mean, it's very much Mahamudra in a totally different language and scheme. Anything else? I hope this is helpful to review. It's a big book, has a lot of information in it. Sometimes it seems like, wow, did I read through that? So let's conclude with our
So
dedication.
next time will we then, are you going to like reorganize?
Yes.
Or are we going to?
Yeah, I'm going to change the calendar. Everybody in the world is going to add a week.
Okay.
Would that be neat? Yeah, so we'll push back the whole schedule by a week. By this merit may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings by the confidence of the golden sun of the great east. May the lotus garden of the Rigden's wisdom bloom, may the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled, may all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory. Thank you. It's a neat book. It's like really helps to flip through it, and skim through the sections and get a feel for like the flow of the material. It's very helpful. And then to dive in as your eye gets caught with little stuff. It's helpful. Anyway, nice to see you all. Have a great week.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.